People have been trying to understand social interactions and their effects on group behaviors since before societies even existed. But a study that focused solely on societal interaction and communication didn't rise until the 1800s.
So why did this separate discipline develop? In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution caused people to move from the isolated countryside to booming cities in order to find work in the growing factories.
This mass exodus caused an incredible amount of social issues. For instance, there was not enough housing to accommodate the increased population in cities, and there were not enough jobs to employ and satisfy the growing workforce, leaving millions without money.
With no money and no place to live, many citizens found crime to be a suitable alternative to starving on the streets, and the rapid growth of the factory system caused pollution and waste to pile up and threaten the health of the city.
The consequences of the Industrial Revolution caused scholars to no longer be able to ignore the effects society had on the individual, and the study of sociology was born.
Hello, I am German teacher Max Weber. I was the first to study separate groups within the larger society because I was a supporter of the interactionist perspective. Many people consider me the first sociologist since I studied society's effect on the individual. I used the principle of Versailles in order to understand people's feelings and thoughts. Versailles was an attempt to understand the meanings individuals attach to their actions. In essence, this means to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to look at something from their perspective. I also used ideal type so I could understand the essential characteristics of social features. Ideal type is a description comprised of the essential characteristics of a feature of society.
Hi there, I am Harriet Martineau. I'm mainly known for my focus on observations and objectivity. I even question whether the United States has lived up to its promise of democracy. I advocated for change in order to solve the problems that plague society. I was also the first to record social observations like marriage, family, race, religion, and education.
And for me, how do you not know who I am? The name is Karl Marx. I believe in the conflict perspective, which was the best perspective. I was the first to tie economic organizations to the structure of society. In my perspective, the bourgeoisie, or capitalists, own the means of production, and the proletariat, or workers, own the labor sector. Because I am obviously a genius, I predicted the proletariat would get sick of being mistreated and overthrow the capitalists. Although I wasn't a true sociologist, my belief that the economic structure influences society became a pillar of society.
I am Jane Addams. When I visited London in the 1880s to see the Toynbee Hall, I came back to America with the idea to open the Hull House on the west side of Chicago that would offer welfare, education, and recreational services to the poor. I had to conduct surveys of the poor to understand their living conditions. From there, I focused on wage level, sweatshops, child labor, and the immigrant experience. Because of my studies, I brought light to the serious effects of industrialization and urbanization. Even though I contributed greatly to the field of sociology, many scholars just consider me a social worker.
How are you? I am Herbert Spencer. I looked at society biologically, meaning I saw society as a living organism. Like a living organism, I believe society has a set of interdependent parts that all work together. I believe Charles Darwin's theory of evolution also applied to society. By this I mean that change and unrest in society was society's evolution towards stability and perfection. Because I felt this way, I did not believe any steps should be taken to correct social problems, since after all, only the fittest would survive anyways. Oh, and just for the record, I coined the term survival of the fittest, not Darwin. But survival of the fittest ideals became known as social Darwinism. And in case you didn't know, social Darwinism is a perspective that holds that societies evolve towards stability and perfection, and only the fittest societies survive.
Hello, I'm Auguste Comte. Many people know me as the father of sociology. I was the first scholar to apply the methods used in science to study social life, since I believed that society was held together by social static and change occurred through social dynamics.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Emile Durkheim. I was a French teacher and I developed France's first university sociology course at the University of Bordeaux. I happened to be the first sociologist to truly use methods of science to study society. I mean, after all, you should only study social phenomena that are observable because only these can be studied scientifically. I advocated for the functionalist perspective. I observed society by studying the functions of social institutions. Function is the consequence that an element of society produces for the maintenance of its social system. I had a particular interest in the function of religion, since I do believe that shared beliefs and values hold society together.
What's up? I am W.E.B. Du Bois, also known as the first African American to earn a doctorate from Harvard. I believe that social analysis must lead to social reform, and I used empirical analysis to study an African American neighborhood in Philadelphia. To be considered empirical, it is anything based on experiment or observation. I helped establish the NAACP and hopes to improve the issues I found in my analysis of the Philadelphia Negro. The NAACP is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Peoples.
Max Weber was born on April 21, 1864, in present-day Germany. Weber's main interest lied in the fundamental issues of social sciences. Weber published his own papers in a journal and eventually went on to co-found the German Sociological Association and served as its first treasurer.
Harriet Martineau was born on June 12, 1802. She was born to a middle-class English family where her parents valued learning and they made sure she received a good education. After her father died, Martineau was forced to support herself. She was determined to make a living as a writer, even though she received little help or encouragement from publishers. Martineau published Society in America, a book based on observations she made while traveling in the United States. The topics included marriage, family, race relations, education, and religion. This established the focus of sociological study. Her detached style of reporting also set the standard for objectivity in sociological research. Martineau believed that scholars should advocate change to solve the problems that they studied. As a result, she was one of the first to speak out in favor of women's rights, religious tolerance, and the end of slavery.
Karl Marx was born on May 5, 1818, in present-day Germany. In college, he challenged existing ideas including religion, philosophy, ethics, and politics. Marx's theories about society, economics, and politics are collectively known as Marxism. Under Marxism, he argued that all society progresses through class struggles, meaning that the upper class and lower class tension would lead to self-destruction, which would be replaced by a new system called socialism. Under socialism, he believed that society would be governed by the working class and what he called the dictatorship of the proletariat. He believed that socialism would eventually be replaced by a classless society known as communism. Jane Addams was born on September 6, 1860. Jane Addams succeeded in establishing a specific basis for American social work which raised international interest. She helped contribute to the peace movement during the First World War, which ultimately earned her the nickname Saint Jane. 4 years before her death in 1931, she received a Nobel Peace Prize for her work.
Herbert Spencer was born on April 27th of 1820. He was a civil engineer and spent most of his time on the study of the natural and social sciences. Combining these areas, Spencer adopted a biological model of society. Spencer was strongly influenced by the views of naturalist Charles Darwin, and as a result used his theory of evolution to help describe his biological organisms. Spencer considered social change and unrest to be natural occurrences during a society's evolution towards stability and perfection. Spencer's ideas gained a wide following, particularly in Britain and France. However, like Comte, Spencer refused to read the writings of scholars whose ideas differed from his own. As a result, he disregarded the rules of careful scholarship and made scientifically unfounded claims about society. Over time, Spencer's social Darwinism fell out of favor among the world's sociologists. Auguste Comte was born on January 19, 1798. Like most French scholars of his day, Comte was intrigued by the causes and consequences of the French Revolution. As a result, Comte began to focus on two basic areas of study, social order and social change. He suggested that certain processes, which he called social statics, hold society together, while social dynamics tear society apart. Comte hoped that this knowledge could be used to reform society. Throughout his life, Comte suffered from depression and other emotional problems. At one point, he began to practice what he called cerebral hygiene, which involved ignoring the publications of other scholars in order to keep his mind. However, more than 150 years after his death, sociologists are still concerned with his basic issues of order and change.
Emile Durkheim was born on April 15, 1858, in France. Durkheim introduced the study of social science in school curriculums. In 1893, he published his first major work, The Division of Labor and Society, in which he broke down the influence of social norms on individuals within a society. In 1895, he published The Rules of Sociological Method, which was a manifesto stating what sociology is and how it should be carried out. In 1897, he published a case study called Suicide, a Study in Sociology, that explored differing suicide rates among Protestants and Catholics, and he argued that stronger social control among Catholics resulted in lower suicide rates.
W.E. Du Bois was born on February 23, 1868. Although he was not a member of the Chicago School, W.E. Du Bois took a similar approach to studying society, mixing social analysis with social reform. He used community studies to underscore the significance of race in American society and believed that sociologists should be involved in social reform as well as academics. Du Bois' work was of the utmost importance to an understanding of American society. However, his findings and remedies ran counter to the accepted views on race. As a result, his contribution to the development of sociology went unrecognized. The study of sociology has benefited human society immensely, for without it we would only be able to study psychology, the study of how the actions of individuals contribute to society, and not how the behavior of people as a group affects society.